Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Tom and Scott. We're back again. Another
Back.
Amorphous Jedi live show. Had another good episode of Bad Batch. Maybe too much filler. I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it. Um, and we want to talk about some video game stuff again. It's just hard to get away from, especially in this new episode, right? And then we're going to get into some Thrawn and Ezra speculation at the end, which I think is going to be cool. So, God, man,
Yeah.
what have you been up to this past week?
The same as usual, dude. My life doesn't change much. But as far as shows go and the stuff we're supposed to talk about, obviously the Bad Batch,
Yeah.
obviously my general reruns of The Office, but I've also
Okay.
been on The Last of Us, man. That show is great. I'm
Mm.
super into it.
Yeah. What are
I
they?
bought in.
How many episodes in are they into Last of Us?
There was episode 3 last night, and I have not watched it yet. So
Okay. So you're
yeah, I
two
need to.
episodes in. And from my understanding, granted, I haven't played the game yet. So,
Right.
and I don't know if I will. I just don't usually get into single player. But something cool that I was reading about the show is that the showrunners were talking about we want to basically show the video game. All we want to do is add scenes that give context to
Yeah.
what you've seen in the game. Like they're not taking creative artistic licenses to tell a whole different story, or is that been your experience with watching the first couple episodes?
So I played the original one probably a few years ago now. Whenever the remaster came out. So I didn't play it when it first came out because I didn't have a PlayStation, but I did
Okay.
play the remaster and I did play the second one.
Hmm.
So it, I have a general sense of the game as much as I'd like to remember it detail by detail. I really don't. I just know that from my recollection, it's pretty close to what the
Okay.
game was. I'm sure there's some discrepancies and minor
Yeah.
changes, but overall, it's how I remember the game. Um,
Okay.
it's
Gotcha.
it's so much, in fact, that it's been a little difficult for me to kind of get on board with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey because I the performances by Troy Baker and man, that name's
Like in the
eluding.
game itself, you mean?
Yeah, Troy Baker was Joel, and then Ashley something, I can't remember her last name,
Okay.
played Ellie, and their
Okay.
performances were so good that it
Hmm.
it, would- it would be like watching Luke and then having another actor play Luke,
Someone else
and
play
just
Luke. Yeah, yeah.
like it would feel good even if they did a good job, but it's not quite the same. But that
You're
being said,
Like Pedro Pascal needs to have a helmet on. Like
exactly, yeah, I'm just yeah. The whole time I'm like, "Where's Grogu? Why isn't he here? Probably smoked these
Grogu's a
zombies."
zombie. I don't know. That's
But
cool, man. Well,
yeah, good show.
I know there's always controversy. I know there's stuff with like Henry Cavill leaving Witcher because he didn't think they
Mhm.
were following the source material close enough, which I
Yeah,
get that as a huge, if he's played the games and read the novels, I think that's why it's so hard. I think this is like something that's known whenever you adapt either novels or like comic books especially, right? Because
mhm.
comic book enthusiasts are so into the world of those characters. When you adapt that and it's not kind of up to their standards, that's kind of rough. And so
It
that's
is,
cool.
on the flip side, you bring in a whole new like era of an audience because there's
Yeah.
people who haven't watched it, so they're experiencing it, and to
Yeah.
them, Joel, this
Yeah.
this Joel and Ellie will be their Joel and Ellie. So it's like I get it, but
And
it
they'll
definitely
probably go play the game, maybe, right?
they might, yeah, just to experience that. And I
Yeah.
really want to see this last episode because Ron Swanson is actually the character
No,
Bill.
he's not.
Yes, he is. Nick Offerman. So I'm like, I love
Is
that
he
guy. He's
like,
awesome.
yeah, I do too. Is he like a character that will persist through the whole show, or is he just
Bill,
kind of
see,
like a cameo appearance?
my memory goes a little foggy.
I was like, maybe you could hook me. Maybe I'll have to watch it if I know Ron Swanson's in the show
I
or
can't
whatever.
remember if I should know that. I can't remember if Bill survived. So I need to watch this episode because I got to find out now.
That's cool. That's cool. We
Yeah.
have to keep us posted next week on what we're gonna live through you on
I know
the.
you're not a fan of
Yeah,
zombie shows, but it is good,
yeah.
man. You
Okay.
probably would enjoy it. It's a novel take on
I'm
zombies.
sure the show is good. I mean, I
Yeah.
like Pedro Pascal, so. But before we jump into the discussion today, guys, I did want to remind you that we do have a second channel. It's just at BadCuzDad on YouTube, and this is kind of where we started, doing content on YouTube and hanging out. And this was because of our, love for gaming. So we do a lot of gaming content over there. We cover Star Wars games really heavily, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, which is coming up, which we're super excited about, especially Scott. And so,
Yeah.
if you're into gaming and you want to go check out some of our content, just like I said, check us out at BadCuzDad on YouTube and give us a sub over there if you want to see some stuff. But today we are going to get into the Bad Batch breakdown, and I want to play a little 30-second clip of Scott's most recent breakdown episode that we did on the channel. And
Yeah.
let's do that before we jump in. Here we go.
Hello there, and welcome back to another breakdown of the Bad Batch. I'm Scott from BadCuzDad, and today we're talking about and taking an in-depth look into Episode 5, Entombed. We begin the episode with Omega and Wrecker scrounging for some parts in a junkyard. I like how Wrecker is basically just an overgrown kid, and him and Omega have a real sweet brother-sister dynamic that I just adore. They find what they're looking for among a couple of other oddities Omega picks up and return back to Sid's headquarters, where we see Fee is back schmoozing and captivating a couple patrons with another one of her adventure stories. Hunter and Tech notice that her embellishment seems to get a little stronger each time. Omega and Wrecker return with the compressor and oddities, and Fee comes over to have a look at what she brought back. Although most of it's junk, Fee notices something interesting about one of the pieces. It's a compass, an old one at that. She says the coordinates are in the Caldor Trinary.
All right, there it is, guys. Scott, I don't know. I mean, our breakdowns are amazing. I really like them, what we're doing so far. And I know we're kind of evolving it every week. But I got to say, I've been reading a lot of stuff this week. And there's a lot of people, I think, and maybe it's just a vocal minority of people who are not super happy with all the filler we're getting. Because it feels like, there's been like one really good episode in the middle of, for not that they're bad episodes. They're really good, but they're a lot of filler. Last week I didn't get those vibes from you. I think you were, liking the filler episodes. What'd you think this week?
See, I even said at the end of that breakdown video, I don't mind filler, quote unquote, if it continues to lay down the groundwork for like an overarching good story. That doesn't bother me. We're watching this because it's entertaining, and I feel part of storytelling is the build-ups, the character development, the way that the story ebbs and flows. And if you just kind of get right to the meat of it all the time, you leave a lot to be desired. At least that's how I like to consume my story and my immersiveness in those worlds. So for me personally, I like it. I don't mind the filler. When it keeps making the story better, I think it's just a necessary aspect to it. And as we'll talk about here in a moment, this episode showed a big area of Star Wars yet to be explored that has been explored in the game a little bit. So for me, it was even better. I really was on board with this one.
Okay. Yeah, I think for that reveal that we're gonna get into, it did kind of save the episode. I think this was like your generic, how do you say it? Like treasure hunter. You go find treasure. It's booby trapped. You have to leave the treasure to survive, and you learn a bunch of important life lessons, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
like the same old kind of thing, which is fine. You know what I mean? But it was a really cool kind of callback to, I don't know, you had mentioned Indiana Jones to me. Were you getting those vibes, like the
Oh yeah,
Temple of
look at it.
Doom stuff?
Look at all this. The mysterious compass, the arrival at a secret tomb, the booby traps, the promise of a rare treasure at the end, and then you throw in the music and the cinematography, and
Yeah.
I was immersed, man. It made me feel like kind of a little kid again watching those.
Like Goonies or something.
Yeah, it had that Goonies vibe, a Temple of Doom vibe, little chalice reference at the end. So it was fun,
That's
man.
true. Yeah, yeah.
That's to me the goal of watching this stuff is to be entertained and to evoke certain feelings as a viewer, and it did the job for me.
And they finally paid off. So, we saw Fee teased like at the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
in Sid's hideout, kind of hanging out, and she was
Yeah.
finally a part of the episode. And I thought she was a pretty good character at first when she joined up. My thought was like, oh, she's a meme character. Like she's gonna be someone who is taking them on this adventure but doesn't really know what she's doing, and she's just gonna get them into all sorts of trouble. But I don't know. It didn't really play out that way. She kind of seemed like a competent pirate. Like knew what she was doing. Is that
Yeah.
what you saw?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of mirrors a little bit how the character of Malegi in the previous episode. Side characters are great if they're done well. If they don't become just kind of forced into the story or forced into some purpose. It was a cool voice acting job by Wanda Sykes, and I mean, it was just a cool side character to have in it to that kind of led us in the direction of the episode. And whether we'll see her or not again, I don't know. I don't
I'm
predict she'll
like
become a
I'm
staple, but she was a cool
I'm
character.
hoping her and Hondo have some sort of
That would be fun.
like past or
Hmm.
their crewmates or something, because I think that would be a cool crossover
Yeah,
kind of episode, because I like Hondo. He's awesome. Um, but the other thing is, there was kind of like an interesting relationship with her and Omega, right? So
hmm,
Omega is obviously really drawn to her, and maybe it's no surprise because there's obviously no female clones, you know
hmm.
what I mean? And so it was almost like a big sister type of deal. Like everything Fee says, Omega's like hanging on her every word and wants to go hunt for treasure, kind of like this
Yeah,
childlike side of Omega that we haven't really seen so far, because it's almost been like the clones. It's like with your kids, right? You have to at some point introduce them, as much as you want to protect them, into the realities of the real world, right? And so you
yeah,
can see Hunter trying to do that slowly while still protecting her. And then on the other hand, Fee is just total fun. Like, let's
yeah.
just go forget about our problems. You know what I mean? Let's be kids, kind of a thing. I don't know. I thought that was a cool
It
dynamic with
it's
her.
multi-layered with her. I think like she started like you said, she's the only female clone, like just a complete rarity. She was at first, and I don't know if many of the viewers remember this, but she was at first created. She is part of Clone Force 99. Like she was a clone that was engineered to be part of that, but instead of accelerated aging, she's been like Boba was. Her aging process is unaltered. So for all intents and purposes, she is a kid, and we've not really got to see her be a kid in these episodes. She was just kind of thrust into this just mayhem of the Empire taking over. Her parents, so to speak, were the Kaminoans, who were more like just mentors, but not really parents. Then Hunter kind of adopted this role, and she's been in danger ever since and forced to kind of live in just a rugged life. So now you got somebody like Fee who's adventurous but carefree and is able to sort of nurture that child side of her. And this is the first time we've really seen her excited about life in general. And I think it's good for her character development overall.
Yeah, I think it's like a fun snapshot, but I don't know. My prediction for Fee and Omega, this is predictions with Tom, is I feel like she's going to, I don't want to say lead her astray, but maybe lead her down a path where Omega is going to eventually see that, um, the way that the war is progressing and the way that the Empire is extending their reach right across the galaxy, that at some point they have to fight and they have to stand up. And so I think they're going to have to accomplish that before, other kids like her have the ability to be kids. And so, not that Fee's going to do something like, atrocious or something like that. It's just that I think she's going to help show the dichotomy between what Clone Force 99 is trying to do. And then, I don't know if Omega has the luxury of being a kid for long, kind of a thing.
No.
So I don't know.
But whether or not that's true, she's going to have to go through the stages of still being a kid. So I think Fee is more of that eluding element of perhaps Omega becoming a teenager and garnering some type of rebellious attitude. And I have a feeling, if depending on how long the duration of this show goes on, we're gonna see that different phase of life of Omega, and like how she's going to progress as a character through the different stages. So, which was gonna make for, again, great storytelling.
But to Fee's credit, she basically like saves every person in Clone Force, during the episode, right? So without
She's
her,
also the one that took them there. So, I mean,
that's true. That's
it was
true.
just her responsibility from the beginning. But
Yeah.
yeah, she proved herself to be an efficient treasure hunter / pirate.
Yeah. Well, in the end, she loses the treasure, obviously. So, pirates will pirate. So, she tried to get it and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was a cool filler, fun dynamic between her and Omega. And so, I didn't mind it, but let's get into the juicy part, right? Because there were some bigger implications to this episode that you alluded to a little at the beginning. And this is the introduction of the Zepho, which
Allegedly.
they didn't name the technology they were seeking for, Zepho technology or anything like that. So let me just throw it to you, Scott. What is Zepho, or who are the Zepho? And give us an overview, maybe, and maybe after that we'll get into like where they come from and why are they even a thing. So yeah, who are the Zepho?
The Zepho were first introduced to us, the fans and people who, in particular, have played Jedi Fallen Order. They were kind of the background story in there for Cal. Cal's main goal in the game was to, number one, he got discovered in the beginning, so he was trying to hide like most Jedi, but didn't work out too well. He was discovered by Inquisitors, and he was essentially, or I should say, eventually led to a planet where he saw a hologram of an old master named Eno Cordova. And he told him about the race of the Zepho, that they are essentially very, very old, predating the Republic, a very advanced civilization that were Force wielders, but they use the Force in a way that we don't typically view it and know it, like with our current timeline that we're in. They were called sages, not Jedi. They use the Force in probably a lot of the ways the Jedi do. No lightsabers. I don't know if they were full-on peacekeepers. The story, there isn't a lot of background and a lot of lore. They're just, they're known as a species that use the Force for thousands of years before the Republic. So anyways, he goes on a mission to search out some of their technology, and he discovers that their ruins are still on the planet of Zepho, but they're all
so
gone.
The planet is called Zepho.
Yeah.
As well, that's just kind of how they're known.
Yeah, so they're called either the Zepho, or I think it was like Zephonians. I'm not sure. The lore is still kind of up there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But the point is, old technologically advanced species who use the Force, who somehow or at some point dabbled in the dark side. I'm not sure what they called it then, and it led to the end of their civilization. And from the records, it looks as though they fled the planet, went to the unknown regions of space, and have not been seen since. And that's kind of where we're left. Then the story in Fallen Order shifts to the main timeline with Cal trying to just survive, find a holocron so he can find the other Force sensitive kids, and we're just not really told much else. So
So we're kind of left hanging in the games then to the implications of
yeah,
who the Zepho are, why they're relevant. It's just a place you travel to in the game to try to get some technology, basically,
yeah,
to help Cal in his journey
yeah.
for the most part.
The, the,
Okay.
the Empire was there already, searching for something. That
Hmm.
that's why.
So there could be something bigger. Yeah, bigger
Yeah.
implications.
Hmm.
Anywhere the Empire is, obviously, they're trying to get
So
something powerful.
the way I look at this is, it's either just an Easter egg, like let's just throw that in there. We saw it
Hmm.
in the game. Here's the connection, or they're building a larger narrative and starting to go a different route with Star Wars and show us more timelines and more characters and species. And I hope it's that, but it could just be an Easter egg for now and not really relevant going forward.
Do we know where on the timeline the Zepho show up? Are we talking like pre Old Republic? Are we
Yeah, we're talking like I think 3 to 4 thousand years.
like like ancient?
Yes.
As far as the world of Star Wars kind of a thing.
Yeah, and they have a large similarity to the ricotta species. So I'm starting to wonder whether or not, if this canon, the Disney Star Wars, is replacing the ricotta with the Zepho, because they're they're pretty much the same thing. They kind of have the same background. Don't know too much about them. They were force wielders, barbaric. They had some advanced technology, and then they disappeared.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
was kind of my next question with this. I feel like this is kind of a missed opportunity to not a missed opportunity, but if they're going to start doing these video game crossovers to connect to the Ricotta, right, which show up in KOTOR, correct? And so
That's where they first showed up. Yeah.
right, and have dealings with Revan. And so I'm like, oh, this is such a cool segue into the old Republic, right? To
Before the
set
Republic.
something up. Yeah. But I mean, I guess we see them in the old Republic, but I'm just saying to even have a window to like, even if it's an animated series set in that timeline, like
Yeah.
Revan's timeline or in the
Yeah.
old Republic somewhere. I don't know, because obviously we talked about it last week on the show. I think we're both like really want to see something in the old Republic era,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I was like, man, this could have been a really cool thing to do. But the other thing it could be doing, like you said, is I think every Star Wars fan is really interested in the origins of the Force.
Uh-huh.
So maybe the Zepho somehow tie in to that a little bit. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. Are you thinking there's going to be any next steps, or do you think it's just going to be like a one and done kind of a thing?
The optimist in me says I hope there's more, but you never know. I can't see the things that we've seen throughout the course of this just Star Wars media not panning out in some way. Like when you talk about the son and the father and the daughter on that Mortis arc, you talk about the world between worlds. Now you're bringing in ancient civilization. To me, that's indicative of a much larger story and another direction that they're going, especially with somebody like Filoni. That guy's 10 steps ahead of everything. So I I wouldn't be shocked in the least. I would be more shocked if nothing came of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna keep our eye on it. Obviously, guys, if you haven't seen the
Hmm.
Bad Batch episode 5 breakdown, please go check it out. Scott did a great job on it, and we're gearing up for the one coming out,
Or play Fallen Order.
tomorrow.
I mean, if you want to see that and see for
Good
yourself,
call.
like look at the background right there. That's the exact same etchings as we saw in the temple in this past episode. And then the droid or the whatever that was. I'm not sure what we would call
Yeah, we
that.
didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
The tall neck looking thing from Horizon Zero
Yeah.
Dawn.
Yeah. So yeah, if you've played the game, the weapon was the same as the Zepho temple guards. They're not the Zepho. They were robots essentially, automatons. They had the same weapon, shot from their chest instead of their head. And if you saw that Zepho picture there on the right hand of the screen, their heads are shaped after the Zepho. So I think it would be hard to create an argument that said this wasn't Zepho technology, because it's pretty obvious that if it's not, they clearly took inspiration for it, right? So
Right. If not, it was at least a cool Easter egg kind of
yeah.
connecting the two. So, well,
And maybe we'll see more in Jedi Survivor. That's definitely a possibility too.
Yeah, we're gonna get there in just a second. Actually, we're gonna get there right now. So let's like I said, guys, go check out the episode or check out Jedi Fallen Order, and let us know in the comments if you agree that there's a connection there. But let's go ahead and switch on over, Scott, to the next topic.
Okay.
All right, so obviously with this Zepho technology that we think was in the episode, it seems like they are, I mean, it has to be intentional. They're starting to make connections between the Star Wars video games that we're getting, right, and the characters and the shows. And so, you've mentioned this in the past. It's almost like, hey, Favreau and Filoni are, concocting this MCU style convergence of characters, that's going to lead to some sort of climax, whether it's like a huge battle, I don't know, but it's
that's what it makes me feel like.
yeah, all tingly inside. But dude, it's gonna be good. I'm super excited that video games are crossing over into the mainstream shows.
I am too.
And I think the first place we go is what's gonna happen with Cal, right?
Yeah.
He's obviously the one that's gonna breach the gap and make an appearance somewhere. He just has to. I mean, was it Cameron Monaghan?
Yeah.
He's looks the part, was great in the game. He's obviously a talented actor. Where is he going to show up? Scott's predictions. What is the plan for this guy? What are they going to do?
So I think Cal's kind of a wild card. I think the most, it's hard to say right now because we don't know what's going to happen in Jedi Survivor. We don't know if he dies. We don't. So to say he's going to show up in Ahsoka, I don't know yet, because we don't know if he's even alive at that point post Return of the Jedi, or where Ahsoka takes place. We don't even know that yet. So
I've heard people saying Mando. I mean, is there a chance he shows up in Mando, or you're like, nah?
I think that'd be the least likely place he's going to show up.
I'm kind of hoping he doesn't. I'm kind of hoping I want Ahsoka to have some really cool crossovers.
That's my best guess. I would probably say that, and I think he might even have some interaction with Ezra, because at some point they've been dropping these Easter eggs of all these Jedi still being alive, and I just can't imagine that they wouldn't cross paths at some point. And maybe Ahsoka is kind of the glue that brings them all together in some way. Maybe Cal learns that she's out there, like, hey, this is the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, like. Because clearly Cal met Vader in the first one. Spoilers, sorry. He met Vader, and Vader scared the living hell out of him, obviously. So he's
probably the main reason to go play the game. Hey, if you want to see Vader, you should go play the game.
If you like primetime or top tier Vader, this is like Rogue One. This is an example to go see him in that game, because it's honestly horrifying. So I can't imagine that this isn't building that larger narrative. And I have my predictions with Ezra and Thrawn, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But yeah, I think Cal's going to show up pretty soon, and I don't think it's any random coincidence that this game is coming out before the Ahsoka show. So.
And before Mando, right? It'll technically be out before.
No, Mando comes out March 1st.
Okay,
this game comes out March 10th.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, so they're close enough where if they wanted later in the season with Mando. But like I said before, I am not interested in seeing, because I don't think, the trailer makes it seem like the Mando season is going to deal with the Mandalorians side of things, right?
Yeah.
With Mandalore, with maybe Bo-Katan,
Oh,
Moff Gideon
absolutely, Bo-Katan.
again showing up. And so
Yeah.
I don't know if Cal really fits into that storyline. You know what I mean? I don't,
Yeah.
unless they do like some kind of side story. But I think he does fit into the Ahsoka thing because Ahsoka, which man, I don't want to bury the lead again. We're going to get into the Thrawn and Ezra speculation.
Yeah.
She may be searching for Ezra. And so in that process, especially she met Luke in Book of Boba Fett while Luke is rebuilding the
Hmm.
Jedi Order in his academy. And so Ahsoka could be helping Luke look for,
Teachers.
kids, teachers,
Yeah.
and so Cal could totally fit into that
Hmm.
storyline to me. And I think this would be so cool if Ahsoka plays a role in the Jedi Order going forward. Not necessarily like she has to return to the Jedi Order, but she
Hmm.
has an influence over Cal, and Cal becomes a big character moving forward. So just to see Ahsoka's legacy carry on
Yeah.
through some other Jedi she may train or something like that, and which is I think why we're kind of hoping too. She has a small part in Luke's training or something,
Has
at
to.
some point in the past.
Yeah.
Because I want her legacy connection from Anakin to Luke to carry on, basically.
And it
And
would
so,
give us a lot of reasons to understand why Luke is the way he is
right.
and why he knew his father more than Obi-Wan or Yoda did. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of story to be told there. And I want to say before talking about uh, your little route here, but I think it's awesome that the games are finally being brought to the overall story. I think in the past they were just such standalones, and there's always been such great content there. And even the cartoons, like the cartoons are becoming part of the main story. And
Yeah.
just because they've been games, just because they've been cartoons, they've generally been left out of the overall big picture story. And I think a lot of people have missed out on it because of that. So not only are they making these good smaller stories part of the big story, but a lot of people are being kind of they're being subjected to these characters in which they haven't before.
Well, you make a good point, and you know, I think games in a way have been stigmatized, right? Like as not mainstream or as not a real art form. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so I think
that's a good
as
way to put it.
games progress over time and are just the quality of games, the graphics, the storytelling, people are just starting to realize, hey, this is just a new art form that is just as relevant
Yeah,
as the movies. Probably, I mean, I think the games industry makes way more than the movie industry at this point. I think it has to, you know,
especially
several
when they have
billions.
microtransactions in there. Yeah,
Yeah, and people aren't going to the theater like they used to.
yeah,
So, this is it just makes sense that there's going to be a crossover in that, I just prefer the art of games because like an RPG like Jedi Fallen Order or Survivor, you get to play out the story and make the decisions.
mhm,
Whereas the movie you're just going to watch and to see what great story the storytellers are telling. So I don't know. So I think it's just time for, like you said, for games to make the crossover,
yeah.
and I think we're going to see some incredible Star Wars games in the next few years that are going
Oh
to
yeah,
progress the storylines in a purposeful way from the creators that are working with Lucasfilm to be like, okay,
yeah,
there's a gap we need to fill in here. Let's make a game that can tell that story.
yeah.
And I just think that it makes too much sense not to do that.
Same with the cartoons, and I think that's why
Yes.
eventually we're gonna see the cartoons phase into live action. Because I can't tell you how many nerdy conversations I've had with some of my other friends and neighbors who are also fans of Star Wars that just don't even know who Ahsoka is. Like the first time they saw her was in Mando, and I'm just sitting there telling them like I fully
you're missing out.
understand. It's a cartoon. I felt the same way at first.
I did too. I didn't watch Clone Wars when it first came out. It took me a while to
Yeah,
get on board.
but I tell them every time they are so well done that you really
Yeah.
forget it's a cartoon, and there is so much story to be had there. So yeah, any chance I get, I tell people just watch them. Do yourself a favor. And even Disney, they have it segmented out of like if you don't want to go watch all 7 seasons, they have like the Ahsoka
The
essentials.
essentials.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
really cool.
it's there. And I
Well,
yeah.
and it just makes sense. It's Disney Plus, right? Like kids are watching
Mhm.
Disney Plus. Why not make cartoons that introduce, family friendly stuff that can get everyone involved in the Star Wars universe? So before we move on to the next one, I do want to one more talking point on this topic. I'm going to throw a reverse Uno card on you.
Are you? All right.
Are we going to see any TV characters show up in Jedi Survivor? Is this a possibility to cross over the other direction? Would you want to see that? And is it even a
yeah.
possibility, do you think?
I think it's a possibility to see this at some point.
Okay.
Whether it happens in Fallen Order coming out, don't know yet. I'm not sure where. Like I said, it all depends on where they're at with the story and the
Could
timeline.
Ahsoka make a appearance in Jedi Survivor? Would
Well,
that be awesome?
Obi-Wan made an appearance on a hologram. It was subtle.
Okay.
It was a few
Obviously,
seconds.
Vader made an appearance.
Vader did, yeah. So I think, yeah, it's possible. And I mean, come on. There's not a lot of the story they've told us yet. So I think we're gonna see a lot of things
Okay.
pop up during the course of that, for sure. Like nobody
Yeah.
expected Vader to be in the first one. Nobody.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there he was at the very end. So I think we might. I would not be surprised if we saw something like that.
I just think it would be cool. Like, what a cool experience to see some of your favorite characters in video games,
It is.
from the films.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, even like, what if you were able to play a level as Ahsoka or something? You know what I mean? Like, that would be amazing. I would probably
Oh,
have to buy the game if
I
that
would.
was the case.
Yeah, I would wear one of my new baby's diapers and just sit there as I like peed in excitement.
Yeah, but so many connections now being made to the games. It's really exciting. Like I said, guys, if you want to see us talk about that stuff some more, check out our video game channel where we're going to be covering Jedi Survivor a lot at BadCuzDad on YouTube. But speaking of Ahsoka, speaking of Rebels in general, let's get into some Ezra
Some
talk real quick.
speculations.
Yes, and I just want to start out by saying, kind of
There
bringing
he
up
is.
Rebels in general. It's I don't know. When I first saw Rebels, who could have predicted it would have went this direction? But
Yeah.
tell me if this is a crazy statement. I feel like Rebels at the moment may be the most important piece of Star Wars media that has been released. The implications of Rebels. Okay. Do I need to go more in depth? Are you connecting
No,
dots? Or do
I
need
know
to
what you're
say
saying. No, I know what you're saying.
the timelines of everything moving forward is a result
Yes.
of what has happened on Rebels? I mean, you're talking Ahsoka show, right?
Yep.
She's in the white robe with the staff. Her and Sabine are going off on whatever their adventure is, right? Rebels shapes who Ahsoka is, maybe with that, with her interaction with Luke at some point. You have Thrawn and Ezra. We know Thrawn, what a tactician and what his presence means to the Empire and who he is.
You know what I love about Thrawn?
ahead.
And I'll let you continue with Ezra after this. Thrawn. So if people watching this don't know who Thrawn is, he was first introduced years ago in the expanded universe, the books that were first written after Star Wars had ended. He's a Grand Admiral, kind of like Tarkin was, and I think everything that we see, the qualities of the Empire portrayed in Andor, is exactly how Thrawn is as a character. He is that bureaucratic, imposing, cunning, just deceitful entity, but you love to hate him because he's just captivating and he's frightening, and he kind of carries the same presence that somebody like Tarkin or Palpatine would, and and we saw him in Rebels. So you're right, it is pivotal. It's kind of the glue that brings all these eras, at least within the last 100 years, kind of together. So I mean, Thrawn's awesome. I can't wait to see him. But go ahead, continue with Ezra. I just
Let me
want to let
continue. Yeah,
people know
continue
who
the
he was.
monologue because I'm not done
Yeah,
yet.
I know. Sorry.
Ezra, no, you're good because Thrawn he's going to play an important role going forward in Star Wars media. I think they
And
see
he
the
was
potential.
mentioned by name by Ahsoka in that Mando
Yes,
episode. So
where's
that was
Thrawn?
like,
So
here's where we're going with this.
yep, and it's cool because she's still on her mission to find Ezra. She's like,
Yes.
she doesn't mention Ezra, but she mentions Thrawn, and you put the pieces together.
Yep.
So keep
Exactly.
keeping it going. Ezra is there's a lot of questions out there. We're going to get to them. So his storyline is going to be important coming off of, and we got his complete origin story now,
Yep.
from Rebels, which was really cool. I love origin stories. And then
Same.
the other thing that is probably the most important to you, I feel like, and you never let me hear the end of it, is Rebels introduced the world between worlds.
Yeah.
So this is your pathway that you keep telling me to maybe the sequel trilogy being remade, or maybe even the original trilogy,
Yes.
And so if either of those things happen, then Rebels is hands down the most important thing that ever came out. I don't think there's a question about it. And so
Yep.
this isn't necessarily a topic on Rebels. It's just that we've seen. I just wanted to point that out because I don't think people are sleeping on Rebels or anything. I think everyone thinks Rebels is great,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've really considered the implications of what Rebels has
all.
done,
Yeah.
and Filoni did, which obviously he's playing 4D chess. He is seeing all the moves, all the years
Filoni
down the road.
fail safe, as I call it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, if you haven't seen Rebels, please go watch Rebels. It's so pivotal to everything going forward. And I know it's cartoon, but it was done in a good style. I like the stylized way they did Rebels. It was really good. And
it was a kind of what do you call those? Not a swan song. It was just it was a heavy nod to Ralph McQuarrie that did a lot of the original artwork for Star Wars. So it looks a little different than the Clone Wars style and the Bad Batch, but it has its own nuance, and it has its own just specialness to it. So it's worth watching.
I'm getting some feels. If you want to even continue to see a Darth Maul storyline progress, some
Oh my
Obi-Wan,
gosh, I totally forgot about that as you're saying
don't
that.
forget. I don't want to spoil anybody if you haven't seen it, but it's just Rebels is so good. It's so good.
It has all the pieces of every era in it, and it's done masterfully.
Yeah, we should have just made a separate segment for Rebels talk.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
Next video idea, write it down.
There we go. Yeah. So, but moving forward in the cliffhanger, man, I'm gonna have to spoil. It's spoilers, guys. If you don't want to get any spoilers from Rebels, if we haven't already spoiled it, mute it. But we're gonna talk about it. So, the cliffhanger at the end of Rebels, obviously, Ezra in Star Wars fashion gives an element of self-sacrifice to save the Ghost Crew, and to what are those creatures that he called in? I never can remember.
They were like they were essentially hyperspace whales.
Yeah, and they like flash, and they have the hyperspeed capabilities.
Called the Purrgil.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ezra, speaking of another connection to maybe Cal, it seems like in the next game coming up, they both have this maybe ability to interact with creatures on a level with the Force, right? And so Ezra can interact with these creatures. He saves everyone by teleporting the fleet Thrawn's fleet out of away from Lothal, and kind of saves everyone, but he doesn't communicate where they're going.
Yeah.
And now there's like this hole, and Sabine and Ahsoka have taken up the mantle of finding Ezra and seeing what has happened. So I'll just throw to you, Scott. Do you have theories? If you don't have theories, is there just something that you want to see and that you're hoping, or are you more doom and gloom on the current state of Ezra and Thrawn? I'll just let you go wherever you want to take
Yeah.
it.
Well, I have a couple theories. I have what I think might happen and what I want to happen.
Okay.
But I think we're going to see a different Ezra than the one that left us in that cliffhanger. I think the Empire and Thrawn is very persuasive still. And even though Palpatine and Vader might be gone at this time, you still have people like Thrawn who carry the same mentality, or I guess what would you call it? Kind of not even a code, but the same goals or ideology. There you go. The same ideology of Palpatine. Thrawn is clearly one of those high level bureaucrats that shares that vision.
Power rules his process,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Accumulating power.
And I think Thrawn, now knowing that Palpatine and Vader are probably gone, I'm assuming he knows that. He knows that the Force wielders were pivotal to holding some of that power, and somehow is able to persuade Ezra to embark down that path, I guess. Ezra has shown several. Number one, he was mentored briefly by Maul in the story. He did show at times he was very emotional and erratic, and he is a little bit like Anakin in some ways. So my prediction is that he's been corrupted to some degree. And that's kind of where we'll see him and Ahsoka square off, and maybe Cal eventually. I don't know if we plan to bring this up in this live show, but I also have my own speculation about Barriss, that we never saw.
Okay, interesting. Go
We
for it.
never saw an end to her story. We knew
Okay.
that she was going down the pathway of Ahsoka, and that she was disillusioned with the Jedi Order, but took more of
Right.
a dark side approach to it, as we saw in the Clone Wars show. But she never had closure to her story, so we don't know where she is. So I think we might see a Barriss show up. That'll be the big surprise in Ahsoka, and perhaps her and Ezra are now Thrawn's enforcers, and that's kind of where that story is going to lead us down. But Ezra will 100% be back. We already know that. He is Cass in the show, and I have
In
a
the
feeling.
Ahsoka show.
Yes,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
that's my prediction. He will be more aligned with the dark side, so to speak.
Hey, so you were right in a sense. I mean, they didn't hide it. They gave us clues all along the way. Ezra was definitely tempted by the dark side from the dark side holocron. Again, spoilers, guys, if you haven't seen Rebels, that leads Maul to Obi-Wan, right? Maul uses his want and need for good outcomes to lead to a bad outcome. And
Yeah.
he's clouding Ezra's dreams in his mind with things that Ezra wants to see.
Yep.
And so we do know that Ezra is susceptible to that. I guess in the end, in that cliffhanger, I wanted to feel like Ezra, when so you remember in the World Between Worlds, when he sees Kanan, him and Ahsoka are together, and he's like, I can save him like I've saved you. But it
Yep.
seems like he learns the lesson of, self-sacrifice is important, and this is Kanan's path that he chose. That in my mind, I want Ezra to connect that in his actions. That says, hey, this is my Kanan moment at the end, at the cliffhanger moment at the end of Rebels, and that is going to carry on with him. But you're right, he's been gone so long, and Thrawn is persuasive. You know what I mean? And so as much as I don't want to believe it, I think they may be setting it up for, because of course if Ezra turns to the dark side, there has to be a redemption arc, surely.
Yeah.
Unless they just want to go scorched earth and like, hey, Ahsoka and Ezra just have to face off.
Well, you have to look at it too from practical terms. Like, if they're doing an Ahsoka show, clearly the flashbacks will work. The alternate realities will work. That'll be a staple. But if they're trying to work in the present timeline for where she is with Sabine, and clearly they're doing that too. They've cast Sabine. They've cast Ezra or Hera. Like, she's going to need a rival. Like, she's so powerful and strong that she basically has no equal. So how do you give her an equal? Well, creating another force wielder of some sort.
Or like you said, your theory about Barriss, because they're obviously adversaries from,
and they were also good friends. They were really.
They were at one point until Barriss, kind of betrayed her and, putting her under suspicion for the things she was doing. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to Ezra and Thrawn, but I'm excited to see what happens in Ahsoka. I'm hoping Ezra has not been turned to the dark side, but he
will.
I think it's going to happen, unfortunately. But this Barriss wrinkle you threw in, I would love to see that, like Ahsoka and her meeting up again. More callbacks to Clone Wars would be amazing. So I don't know. I think it's going to be good. I can't wait for. And if Cal even shows up in Ahsoka too, I don't know. Ahsoka's going to be amazing.
That might be the most Jedi we have on screen in a timeline since
that's
all
interesting.
The prequels. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, you see the alliances starting to. If Luke, what if Luke shows up? Got to teach everybody a lesson, right?
I don't think we've seen the end of Luke in shows and stuff yet. So you're right.
What does every fan want to see? They want to see Prime Luke. We all like wet our pants watching Luke take out those dark
extended
troopers.
EU Luke is what we want to see.
Prime,
you know what I mean?
Prime level Luke. Like, and I we'll see it. Come on, we have to.
Yeah.
They can't tease Luke. Work on his like the, what do they call it? The deep fake type stuff. They can't master that and then not use it again.
And they did master it. He looked good in Boba Fett. It was
way better
than when they did Mando. You're right.
Yeah.
It was super good. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the continued. Rebels had such good implications, and so man, I can't wait. And do we have a date yet on Ahsoka?
I want to say May, but let me make sure.
Surely it won't come out till after the Mando season, though, right? I bet it's probably next holiday season.
Hold on. This was published.
It's got to be next holiday, like November or something like that.
Late 2023, but I'm seeing one here that says March 12th.
There's no way. Mando, yeah, they wouldn't put him out at the same time. So Mando will run first.
Yeah.
Then they'll do Jedi Survivors coming out.
You can see the chess pieces at play, though. That's kind of the.
And we don't have a date yet either for the Ubisoft Star Wars game, do we? Mm-mm. Okay. So maybe that one will come out closer to the Ahsoka series as well. And hopefully that one's co-op, because I would like for us to play that one together. If it is, that would be cool to stream that. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Cool. Any other stuff you want to hit before we get out of here?
I don't think so, man. I think that'll take care of it for this week. Yeah, that'll take care of it for this week.
All right. Well, let's switch on over. And just want to say, guys, thanks again for joining us. Man, the Bad Batch episodes have been good. I know there's been some filler. I'm ready to get into some heavy stuff this week. I'm hoping they bounce back with a show with lots of implications this week. Maybe some more Crosshair interaction with Clone Force, because
it's about to get spiced up. I can
I
feel it.
hope so. I hope so. The clones are just chilling at Sid's and going on random adventures. I'm like, I want to see something good. So hopefully
Let's get
something
back on
spicy
the
happens.
main quest line. Let's get off the side quests for now.
No, no more side quests. That's true. We need to get on the main quest line. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I said, look for our episode 6 breakdown. We're gonna drop that probably Wednesday a.m. After we, Scott's gonna do his magic on that and get an awesome script together for that. And so we're excited to put that out on Wednesday morning. And I don't know, we might put out a few more shorts recently.
I like the shorts.
Yeah, just some.
Fun.
I think the shorts will be a good way for us to do a little bit of speculation. Maybe do some funny stuff
Yeah.
in the shorts that tie the breakdowns together. Because the breakdowns, while they are funny, you have some funny stuff in there. We're basically telling a story though, recapping a story. So
Yeah.
I think in the shorts we'll have a little more creative license to do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, other than that, check out our gaming channel at BadCuzDad on YouTube. We have some new Star Wars: The Old Republic content dropped this week. So if you're interested in playing an amazing Star Wars game with tons of questing, character development, man, it's here right now. We don't have to wait, and it's free. So
True.
if you want to do that, drop us in the comments. We'd love to play with you as well. If you're in game, drop your in-game name or something like that.
Yeah,
we'll
that'd
do
be
something. Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're gonna get out of here, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks everybody.
Thanks to those who have tuned in live, and hopefully it keeps building. Love to have some live conversations.
Yep. All right. We appreciate it, guys. Later, everyone.
Later.